Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be taking a tour of the industry's leading online site selection data tool, ZoomProspector. My name is Alissa Sklar. I'm the VP of Marketing here at GIS Planning, and I'm delighted to be co-presenting today with my colleague, Stevie Field-Chavez. Hello, Stevie.
Hi, Alissa. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be doing a webinar with you. I'm glad to take people on a tour of all the cool things that we have been doing with ZoomProspector over the last few years. There's lots of upgrades and changes and cool ways that you can use this tool to promote your organization, to attract investment, to support local businesses, and just to provide this really robust open access community data portal for everyone in your community. Now, GIS planning has been around for, my goodness, I think 23 years at this point. We are the original creators and disruptors with this technology. The idea that you can take all of this robust data information, pair it with an available commercial sites and buildings database, and then make it visual with a map and with charts and graphs and heat mapping and put it on your website so that people can come and do the analysis that they want to do and share it. That was really revolutionary, and we're really excited that we have been the industry leaders consistently ever since the first ZoomProspector tools made it onto the market. We do pride ourselves on consistent innovation, so we're always working to make this tool better and faster and tighter and be able to do more cool things. And before Stevie gives us a tour, just a couple of things that, well, maybe more than a couple, kind of overview of some of the things that we really like to draw people's attention to with ZoomProspectors. First of all, it's really intuitive. So this is beautiful design that people who come to your website will find engaging and compelling, and they will want to engage with it. It's very user-friendly. The other thing, of course, is that it's mobile responsive. So people get full access to all of the functionality of the ZoomProspector tool, no matter what device they're on. And that is really unlike most other tools on the market because we aren't sacrificing any features. The mapping is there, all the reports are there. We just made it easier to access when you're on a smaller screen. Now, you'll notice that our data, the other thing that we like to say about our data is it is really dynamic. And that means that you can sort it within reports and instantly have it reflected within the report and within the way the data is showing on the map itself. There's loads of map tools that help you dive into the data. So a radius tool that you can drag, bigger or smaller, pinpoint tool. We have our beautiful free draw tool, so you can draw the area, I don't know, around the intersection of two interstates or along the shore of a lake or a coastline. Lots of different ways to use that. And what I think is really one of the biggest secret powers of our tool is the dynamic share link. That means that you get to choose how you share the reports, the properties, all of the analysis on the tool. You can share it in a variety of different ways, but most importantly, you can share it with a unique link. And that means that from a marketing perspective, you are bringing people back to your website. And that is absolutely critical when it comes to digital marketing. You don't want to send them something static. You want them to come back and learn more and see more and figure out what's going on that according to the questions and criteria that they have, and then get in touch with you. So that kind of in a nutshell is some of the most exciting and important things here. And Stevie is going to show you what those things actually look like on the tool itself. So Stevie, I've passed the presenter controls over to you.
Very good. I hate to ask the question, can you see my screen?
Yes, we are looking at the Greater Rochester, New York microsite, which looks great.
Very good, very good, very good. I hate asking that question, y'all. I know everyone is so zoomed out that can you see my screen? And use of the word pivot causes everyone to need to drink. So take a sip of your beverage of choice and let's just jump in. So this is Rochester, New York. I'm going to take you through some of the features that we have on this site, as well as show you several other examples of things that are other kind of ways to implement tools like this on your website. So the reason I chose this one, we did build this microsite. This is not a microsite sales moment, but it's an excellent site for multi-regional organizations, you know, for different cities and different counties. And it very clearly has the different tools listed, which I thought was a great jumping off point. So with that, we're going to get started on the sites and buildings search and find an available site or building that meets the criteria of our user. So this is our new platform. I've got 100 million different tabs, it seems like. Well, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, open here at the top, because sometimes the GoToMeeting takes a bit of a hot second and see. That's why we have all those tabs open. So there's a couple of fun features that I want to show you on just the home screen. The first is I want to call attention to the featured properties. So for our clients, we're able to banner specific properties that you want to maybe call attention to. They're featured, they're shovel ready, they're recently added, they're in an opportunity zone. There's some way that you want to call attention to that, and that's one way to do it. We can program the site so the featured tab or that special bannered property comes up first. That's always helpful if you've got brokers you're really trying to engage. If you really want to draw attention to a new industrial park or something, that type of banner will really come in handy. We also have the ability to search by various locations. I can search by city, by county, by region, any type of defined geography that you have where you are, we can list here. We just need you to define that geography for us. So for example, if you have a neighborhood or a downtown development district or something like that, as long as you can provide us the blocks that or the streets that area encompasses, we can program it so the site application will just be outlined for that particular area. So that's very helpful. Your user can search for sites or buildings by square feet or by acres, sale or lease. That's pretty standard in most GIS property kind of site selection applications. We can also search for types of property. These are also customized. So if you are looking at retail or industrial, you have all of the different categories as well as subcategories that go with that. If you don't see your categories here, the types of property that you want listed in application, that's okay. We have tons and tons to choose from, and if we don't have it, we can create it for you, and so we can make sure that that's fully customized for you. We also have our filters. Our filtered search is a more detailed search. It allows you to search by address or property name, lease rate, sales rate, etc., and various property assets and keywords. So keywords is important because it allows you to kind of filter out everything else that does not have that keyword. And property assets are important because maybe you're only looking for something in an opportunity zone or in the downtown area or that has rail. These are all as well fully customized for you. We have hundreds and hundreds to choose from, so you can have an entire list of property assets here for your user to select. A couple of fun features about the application is the ability to save properties. So at any time, any user that comes to your application, they can actually start a folder. Now this is helpful for multiple ways. So you can have your user who's looking at sites who wants to save some properties for, you know, to kind of study later as they go through, and then they can maybe do their due diligence on those particular properties later. It's also helpful internally. If you're working on a project and the project that you're working on is Project Spider-Man, or in this case, Project X, you can identify specific properties for that particular project. Again, you can have multiple folders, and that share button, y'all, is magic. So I can select that share button. I can email directly in that share button. I can copy the link, and I will stop here and say, I always suggest you rename a link. Do not include a whole bunch of code in your email, your social media newsletter, your website. There's very, very easy ways to rename that. So rename that link, embed it in your, just like we said, your email, electronic newsletter. You can also share on social media. So if I'm working with a site selector or a business decision maker, I can copy this link, embed it in my email, let them know that I have identified 4 properties that would be perfect for their project. They are attached. Once they've clicked that link, they go directly into this page live in the GIS application. And as Alissa touched on when we first started and opened up the webinar, it's super important that that interactive information takes them to your website, and now your analytics are starting to track that information. We've completely blown past the idea of, you know, writing an email, saving the PDF, attaching the PDF, sending them the PDF. You don't know if they're ever going to open it. You don't know if they ever received it. This, you know, you're able to track. You can see my sites and buildings are clearly identified here on the map. I can also activate map layers, and any map layers or any data that I've activated on my map will also be part of the shared link. So they will see what you're seeing. And we are going to talk about those analytics here in just a little bit. Now I'm going to go back to the home page here, and just to kind of reiterate that little share button, any user can have as many folders as they like and share as many properties as they like in those folders. And as long as you don't clear your cache, you can go back and those folders will still be there. I can search properties here as well by date added, minimum size, maximum size, zip code, etc. So there's fun different ways to sort the data that I'm looking for. And let's say, as what happens in many different projects, the business decision maker doesn't know where they want to be. They just know they need to be somewhere close to the water. I can simply copy an area or draw an area here with my map, or with my freehand draw, and apply that filter to my search, and it's actually going to repopulate, showing me only data within that particular area. So you can see it's filtered out everything that's not in my freehand drawn area. So let's take a look at one of these particular buildings, and we're going to walk through the information that's attached to this property card, as well as the supporting information that's in here. So this is what we call the property card. You can see we have photos, we've got a picture of a flyer, the site is identified on our map. We have a primary contact, so we can add your contact information there, or a contact person in your office. You can, separate by sites and by buildings or by types of buildings. You let us know. We can even put broker contact information there. We're going to take a look at the city profile here in a little bit, but I did want to draw your attention to that. There's our awesome share button. All of our properties that are in the system, or any property that's entered in the system, will have the 360 virtual tour, map view, street view, and that 3D rotation, which is super helpful. Now we have a description of the property. This is all of the things that we want to know about this particular property. So we can auto-populate some of this information for you, which makes it really easy to have a really full, healthy property card. So for example, if you're a smaller community and you know who your water agency is, we can list that information for you. If you have a choice of electric providers, we can have a drop-down menu provided, so whoever's entering that property information can select that particular information. Here we have site details, transportation, utilities, contact information, tons of information for the user on this particular property, as well as who to contact. Now I want to find supporting information. So I know this is a great property, but let's look at the information in and around this particular property. Occupation data. This is provided by EMSI or EMSI. It's updated 2 times annually and will provide your annual, hourly, and job information by both occupation and NAICS code. We do not need to take your site down to update any of this data on your site. It's automatically pushed out to you 0 to 60 minutes and 0 to 60 miles from any site of interest. And yes, this does go over city, county, and state line. So it's important, especially those of you who are on the border, that you draw that information that really does affect your numbers of people who are commuting, in or around your area. So this is going to bring in our management occupations and various different occupations within the EMSI occupation data, and again, updated twice a year. Our demographics, labor force, and consumer expenditure information is provided by Applied Geographic Solutions. They're in Thousand Oaks, California. It's updated as well 2 times annually. It is all the way down to the block group level, zip +4. So it's very rich and dependable data that we have relied on for probably 2 decades now. We have our 2020 information as well as our 2025 information, and we can look at this information in various ways. This is one of the many reasons we love working with Applied Geographic Solutions, or AGS, is because of the multiple ways to look at data. I do not need to download a PDF in order to, again, share this information. Unlike other data providers, you need to be able to see this in different formats. So we have the ability to look at it in what we call report form. We also have our graph form, and then we also have heat signature. So there are multiple ways to look at the same data. I am more of a visual person, and so the heat signature and the graph form works a little bit better for me in terms of actually being able to understand what it is that I'm looking at. A report form gets me I get a little bored and I start checking out. So it's important that your data be able to meet the expectations and the kind of the learning capacity of the person that you're sending it to. But again, you also have that share button. So I can share this information directly without having to have this information downloaded at all. Again, 0 to 60 minutes, 0 to 60 miles, and each one of these reports here is updated 2 times annually, zip +4, so all the way down into the weeds. So we're going to kind of go past the labor force and consumer expenditures. The information that we have there is pretty standard in terms of the information that's needed for site selectors. We will scooch over to the wage information. So this is wage and salary information by MSA, and this is going to break out our occupations as well as our subcategories by mean and median hourly and annual data. This information is updated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's brought to you annually. Our business data is, y'all, my favorite information that we provide. It is so robust and so powerful. It really does answer so many questions. I am a former client of GIS planning, as is our director of sales and our director of client services. So we have a really strong team here of people who have actually used this in, in our previous economic development lives. And this data was so helpful to me. So our business data is brought to you by Data Axle, formerly known as Info Group Info USA. I know that's a little confusing, but Info Group Info USA has now changed their name, I believe, to it's Data Axle. And so this information is updated as they update their information. You can't get any faster than that. So anytime that they update their information about something happening in your community, our information is automatically going to update. So that is that's some powerful updating. And you can see, I mean, I went 13 miles and that is just a ton of information. We might actually go down a little bit more. I forget I'm in the New York area and it's pretty densely populated. So I think it's really important that I'm going to show you why we use this source and why we feel that this is so important. Again, you do not need to download a PDF and show a company what type of companies are there that might meet, might be the same type of business that they are. For example, let's go to professional, scientific, and technical companies. I want to see where our tax services are. So I've selected tax services, and it's already telling me how many companies that we have within a user entered radius. Now it's actually going to map these companies for me and tell me the actual name of the company. And that's huge, because with this report, I can see within 6 miles of the building that I'm looking at where my other, maybe these are competitors, would be located, where my underserved areas would be, where areas that, if I were a manufacturing and I'm looking at manufacturing companies, I can see where my suppliers are or my distributors are. So this is super important information when a company is making their decision. In other vendors, you actually have to download a PDF that will bring you to every single business within a 6-mile radius, and your end user will have to actually go through that report, highlight those companies that they're interested in seeing, and they are not mapped. And that is a huge difference. Where here, I can actually get to this information in only a minute, and then share this information with my end user, again, by copying and renaming that link. We're emailing them directly in the report. And once again, your analytics are tracking that. So that is just a huge difference. And again, last, I just want to kind of reiterate, the information is provided by Data Axle, formerly Info USA Info Group. They've been an industry staple for as long as I have been in economic development, 22, 23 years now. So they really are the leader in business data. Our talent information is going to map our learning institutions and the degrees in which our graduates are graduating. I think I said that sentence right. That's a big sentence. That's a mouthful. So it will actually show us where all the learning institutions are. This actually goes out to 90 miles, but we have a default at 50 miles. So I can click on each one of these little dots here, and it's going to tell me the name of that learning institution, and it's going to show me the top programs by number of graduates, as well as top universities by number of graduates. And then below is a breakdown of our programs, the degrees and that are coming out of these programs, and from which learning institution. So that's going to be a lot of information that your the businesses that are in your community or looking to expand or relocate into your community can actually gather. Our More button is going to take us to the city and county profile information. This is going to be an aggregate of a lot of the information that we just saw. It's more of an infographic type format, and you can get to it on any of these community tabs by just clicking above where it says city profile information. If you need these links when we're done with the webinar, let us know. I know there's a little bit of juice that happens with the info or the GoToMeeting, especially when there's a lot of graphics that are there. So this will update here in just a second, and we'll come back to that. We talked about the saved reports. So we can also have community data be a tab at the top of the page. Compare communities is super important. This allows your user to actually take one location from your community. We will take East Rochester in this case, and we can actually, it's a very small community, and we can add any location in the US. And I'm going to put, this is not going to be an apples to apples comparison, but it will actually kind of give us a little bit of information, and I can look at those comparison reports, and it's going to show me how these two communities stack up one to another. So I can do that with any community as long as I start, it's got to be city for city, county for county. As long as I start with one of those cities or counties in your geographic area, I can pick any other city or county in the US, and I can pick multiple. So I can really see that side-by-side apples comparison. And what are we looking at here again? Our share button. A lot of times our biggest competitor is not the community next door. It could be the state, it could be a county that's in another state or across the state that I happen to be in. They're not necessarily next door, and this really allows for that side-by-side comparison. So let's take a look at what some of our other clients have done, because these give you ways to think about using this kind of data in, for where you are. So one of the things for the Beacon Council that I really liked was the ability to look at the different map layers. They had some really great map layers. We can connect to any ArcGIS server, so we can get all of this information in real time from your community. I think that's really important. We can also get KML files and shape files, so do not feel like we can't get all of the cool map layers. I always encourage communities to get creative submarine landing. First time I've ever seen this, and I think that was really kind of cool. We have a client in Kentucky, Bowling Green, Kentucky, that actually has music venues and little treble clefs that identify those music venues, and I think that's really a great way to showcase that data as well. For communities, and we hear this quite a bit, I'm having a challenge actually coming, I really need this. I really need this tool. I know I'd get more success stories in my community. I just need to have this data online, but I have a really tight budget. How can you help me? Well, this is one way that Waco actually did this. They put together a list of sponsors. These will take me directly into these sponsor websites. It's a pop-up window. And then they also have them here in the title bar. So it's a really great way to help offset the cost of a GIS application, even though we're very, very competitive. I understand some budgets are really tight, and that's just a really great way of kind of offsetting that. And in terms of map layers, I'm telling you, they did a great job. They have water lines, sewer lines, of course, the foreign trade zones. We provide you with a ton of map layers, but they've actually added on it. I can see what size water and sewer line goes up to each individual parcel when I'm looking at their parcel map. It's really powerful information. South Carolina Power Team did a great job on their site selection tool. They actually had commissioned a labor study for their area, and they wanted to be able to showcase this on their GIS application. And so what we did is we took this data. I really should have had this up because I know it just takes a minute for all that stuff on the GoToMeeting. I apologize for that. And so what we did is we took their labor study data, which was the raw data, and we added it to the GIS application, so we can now see interactively that data. So if you have raw data that you maybe have commissioned for your community or your region, we can take that information and create it into a application just like this. These numbers here will change once these graphics catch up with me. There we go. So you can see it's completely interactive. I can see in our heat map, it actually explains which each category would be. Our share button works. This is for the whole state, but they actually went 30 minutes or 30 miles outside of state boundary because they wanted to make sure they can capture that. So that's just a really great way to look at that information. And they have interactive map layers as well. So I can scan over the actual map layer and click on it, and it will provide me with some really great information. So that's just another way to use that. I also wanted to highlight Michigan. They have done an outstanding job for our state attendees of this call. I wanted to just kind of point out, again, this is a microsite that we built. This goes to various pages that they may have had already existing. A lot of links are included here. This is very forward facing, but I love the way that you're able to search by city, by county, by metro, and by region. That's so important because you have so many different defined geographies in your community, in your state, that really allows it. And we could do that for even multi-region organizations. That's not a problem. So this is some of the cool things when you start really getting into the tools. So we showed you this site selection application. But what we've done is we've actually taken the data inside of the GIS application and we give it to you so it lives outside of the GIS application, which is why this is broken up the way this is that it is. I already had these locked and loaded because I expected to show you this. So this is, for example, the demographics information. We call these intelligence components. I can change my geography, city, state, address, etc., but it's going to show me the overall population of this state, age distribution, just like our demographic data inside of the GIS application did. This is just living anywhere else in your website you want to embed it. We give you the code that drops right in on that page. So when you have a page that says demographic information, your user can pull up the intelligence component. It has the same data source applied geographic solutions and or data Axle for our business data, and it's just meant to live outside of the GIS tool. This keeps your data consistent. It keeps this off of your things to-do list, so you no longer have to update off a PDF document and embed that on your website, and oh my gosh, that's gotten old, time's gotten away from me. This is fully interactive, and our analytics track this information. It tracks the users on these reports, and that's super important. Here is our mapping intelligence component, and the reason I have this up is because I wanted to show you we have our various map layers that GIS planning provides, as well as, again, any type of map layers that you also want to provide. But a creative way to use these map layers would be to actually, there's our community profile. For those of you who have opportunity zones, this is a great example. City of Stockton has information on the federal program, which is standard, of course, throughout the US. We took the mapping intelligence components. This is the same intelligence component that we just looked at that shows various map layers. And what we did is we turned on the city limits, the census tract boundary, and the opportunity zone boundary. So now I can more visually see where the opportunity zones are within the city of Stockton. Now behind these buttons, which were magic here, I think this was so smart for the city to do, show me sites in an opportunity zone, show me buildings in an opportunity zone. I'm gonna click this and it's gonna take me directly to their GIS application showing me only sites or buildings in an opportunity zone. And I think that's so smart. Michigan did a great job. They did the same thing. Here's opportunity zones, map sites. It's going to take me directly into the GIS application showing me only sites or buildings in the opportunity zones, or only sites and buildings that are energy ready or that are build ready. So these are all links that are all provided by that share button, and those are just really creative ways to use those mapping intelligence components and shared buttons into the application. Conway, South Carolina did something super cool. We took the mapping intelligence component. They provided us with various NAICS codes that make up an industry for them. So this one here is professional services. So you can see I've got all of my professional services mapped, so I can now more visually see where my clusters of industries are located on my map within my community. I can click on each one and get that community data. All that you need to do to us is provide us a list of the NAICS codes that you want identified and how you want them broken up. Is it by specific industries? So on your website, when you're talking about key industries that you're looking to recruit, you actually have live information that's fully interactive and updated multiple times. This business data is provided by Data Axle. Again, it's just another way to look at the data, a very creative way. So this information really builds out a website. This brings me to our Zoom tour. Our Zoom tour is actually not included with our ZoomProspector application, but I did want to take a moment to just highlight a little bit about this. You can see they've embedded it here under regional tour. I'm going to select that and it's going to take me directly into my Zoom tour application. This is built by NISA using technology provided by us. It is self-supporting, so that means they do not need to have customer service to build it. It's very easy. If you can do a Facebook post or social media post, you can figure this out. You can have multiple stops on any tour and as many tours as you want to build. So think about that for a minute. Let's say you have economic development, chamber of commerce, tourism, all under your umbrella. You can build any number of these for any number of experiences or tours of these particular areas. Like let's say you want to do an economic development one or one of that industrial park, you can do that. You want to do one of the filming locations in your area, you can do that. Or your favorite restaurants in the area, you can totally do that. So here you have the community is mapped below. They've inserted even a welcome message.
We're pleased to give you a brief tour of the NISA region.
You can see we have an interactive map, and I can scroll to any one of my tour stops and see multiple photos, website, various data. I can see links. So this is for clients and non-clients. If you are a non-client, It is, if you're a client, you get a 10% discount from the non-client price. And it's super, super affordable, and it's one license per logo. And again, you can have as many tours as you want, as many stops as you want on each tour, and as many photos and video and drone imagery that you want on each tour. And NISA, they built it right into their website, so it's fully interactive. So if I had a handful of these, you could really communicate quite a bit on your website. Let's see what we've got here. I'm not quite sure what that was going to be. So we mentioned the different intelligence components, and I've mentioned a handful of times our analytics. So GIS planning provides you with 3 sets of analytics. You have Google Analytics, which will tell you the time of date, the time people have arrived to, search engine, page they came in on, page they came out on, super important. We also provide you with ZoomProspector analytics, and those analytics are going to tell you the type of property that people were searching for, the size range of property that people were searching for, which communities were most searched in your area if you're a multi-community area. So that's another layer of super helpful information. The final piece is brought to you by Lead Forensics. We call it Lead Gen ID, and will actually tell you the name of the company on your website, what type of property they searched for, which properties they looked at, which intelligence components they looked at. For each click they make, it's going to register that information. And so you're really getting the final piece to the puzzle. Is my website working? Are the right companies clicking on this website? If you can see that your analytics are showing you that this marketing effort in biotechnology is working, and you've had biotechnology companies on your website looking for sites or buildings, that's a tremendous amount of information. We don't recommend that you contact this company right away and say, hey, I see you're on my website. I'd wait a little bit. We know it's kind of a delicate thing of, I know you're on my website, here's some information, but there's definitely ways to prepare and send proposals. In fact, we provide a proposal system for you that allows you to capture available sites and buildings, and as well create separate tabs on that proposal to send to them. So you really have the full complete picture of website tools, your GIS application, and then data within your website, and then ways to continue to contact that company. I have given so much information here. I know our time has gone super, super fast. I do get lost in that a little bit. Alissa, do we have any questions?
We do, Stevie, actually. A couple of great questions, and I just want to remind all of you that you can add your questions into the questions field in the GoToWebinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. So Mark asks, can a guest create a folder for saving things, or do they need to have login credentials?
Any guest can create a folder. They do not need to log in order to use the saved folder. So as long as I don't clear my cache, that folder or those folders will remain populated in my saved results tab and available for my use.
Excellent. Okay, great. And then Chris asks, are all the features of the microsite that you showed included in a website? And the example they have here is built by Golden Shovel. I'm guessing all those features would be included, but I just want to make sure.
We work very well with Golden Shovel, so they fully understand the tabs to put in the application. If you are a GIS planning client, that should be part of your package. If you're a client, I'd have to see what you've licensed. Typically, we sell this together, the ZoomProspector Enterprise, which is the site selection application, as well as those various community intelligence components that come with it, like what we showed in the state of Michigan, where you can embed those directly in your website. That all kind of comes together. And then the creative ways to use that, we can all do that for you. That's all customer service kind of handled by that department. Your client services director, goodness gracious, y'all. And so we can build those for you, and that's included with the ZoomProspector package. I need to look at what you have if you're a client, but typically for anything that I quote, all of that is included together.
Exactly. That's a great answer. So all the intelligence components and of course the lead gen ID are included with the full package. It's just about how you arrange it on your site. Another great question, can I make a compare cities and then generate a URL that I can then embed it on my website?
Ooh, I believe that you can. That share button is, I want to say, we're going to check right now. Let's check. Well, that's one. Let me go into the GIS application. Yes,
Yeah,
there's that share button right there.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
you can create, you continue to add various locations here. You can see I didn't really, well, actually, they stack up pretty well considering there is a tremendous population difference within these communities. I mean, look at how our numbers kind of stack up here, but on the demographics, we have a really big difference. So yes, you can add as many communities here. These are all done in the colors that you've selected in the beginning when we've set up your application. And yes, you can use that magic share button anytime that you've created something on your application tools.
Exactly. So that's really important. That share button is really a superpower because you can use it all across ZoomProspector. And then we really think best practices is to, if you have two regions that you want to set up as important for comparison, then absolutely I would put something like that in there, and you can include that as a link. And the Michigan example that you showed is a great way where people create filtered searches and then use that to share on their website, so people can go directly to the searches based on criteria that were important to them. Someone asks a question about psychographic data and whether that's something that is built in or can be built in on ZoomProspector.
Okay, so I actually don't have an answer on that. So you get the cookie of the day because I don't have an answer on that. I would have to look what exactly that type of data would have. If we don't have it, but you have it, we can include it as long as we have the raw data form. So just like what South Carolina Power Team did on their application, we can add that information, just like they did on their labor force study. So you just need to provide us with that raw data and we can transfer that over.
Yeah, that ability to integrate any additional data sources, whether it's a subscription to something like MZ or FDI markets or any other source that you have, like the labor force studies, great example, then we can add that. And then the local data can also be added in as map layers. So that's something, if you have access to that we can build that in for you. And I think I don't see any other questions coming. We showed the virtual tour. I just want to reinforce one more time, when it comes to virtual tours for property, we know that the vast majority of properties are never going to have expensive drone videos or 3D renderings or things like that made for the most brokers and most organizations most of the time are not going to do that for most of the properties. So having the ability within ZoomProspector to add the 360 virtual tours for every single property is critical. The ability to add any custom tours that you might have is also really important. And so we have that additional button that you can put in there as well. And then the ability to use a virtual tour like in Zoom Tour to develop that further and build that out is also extremely useful. We are going to be getting in touch with you by tomorrow with a link to this video of today's presentation, as well as some additional information and other links you might want to check out. You'll have Stevie and my contact information in there. We encourage you to reach out with any questions that you might have, or if you want to know more, whether you're a client, whether you're not, we're happy to answer those questions for you. Stevie, as always, it has been a pleasure to work with you today.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. I know there was a ton of information that I have thrown out there, but hopefully we've answered some good questions and gives everyone creative ways to think about what they can do with data on their website. It's a two-click rule or less I have. I think anyone who visits your website should be able to find what they need in 2 clicks. And so these ways to use these tools creatively like this really allow and meet that expectation.
Absolutely, that's so true. Thank you very much, and thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy days to join us. We appreciate that and all the work you're doing for your communities. We will be in touch, and we wish you all a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.